A foreign bitch menage, fucking sucking and swallowing. 2 things for $1, they tell her get 'em, I got 'em. I did it without an album. I did shit with Mariah. Look, I'm on fire. That's a hockey ring. I'm on fire. When I brought the Rolls Royce, they thought it was Lee. Then I bought that new Ferrari. Haters rest in peace. Haters rest in peace. Rest in peace to the parking lot. Y'all, let me start for YouTube. Put a little copyright claim on my video like they did when I played 15 seconds of Katy Perry song, like I was gonna get paid off of that song. Whatever. But what's up, you guys, and welcome back to Booksxbritt TV. It's your host, Britt, and we are back with our first video of the year. Yay! And it is going to be a book haul. I do have a couple of videos lined up. Y'all, I finally have a videographer that could help me and do the videos the way I want them to look. So I'm really excited about that because I've been saying this probably since I've created this channel, that I have something special for the Naughty series and the Ethics series, as well as for the VC Andrews series. Well, for the Landry, Dollinganger, or Foxworth, and the Castile, I have something real special planned for those 3 series of VC Andrews books, y'all. But anyhow, I'm back with the jump off, so let's get into it. So, y'all, excuse my voice. I have been sick for the past week, and I'm just now getting over it. So I went into Barnes and Nobles. Well, actually, they sent me an email telling me about they had, you know, everybody call themselves having semi-annual sales after the holidays or in June now. So they had a semi-annual sale, and I finally went in and checked it out, where they had books that were like 15% off the cover, not 15, but 50% off of the cover price, or buy one get one, 50% off the cover price, and it was already marked down a godly amount. Then, you know, they had, you know, editors' picks and stuff like that were on sale. So I went to Barnes and Nobles, right? Yeah, making sure they ain't Books a Million. I went to Barnes and Nobles, and Tampa has quite a few like smaller bookstores that I want to get to go and visit. But for the most part, they're not open on the weekends. So, you know, those like the free days that I have to actually go to it and not have to rush where I can take my time. But hopefully I could get into this one that just opened up over in Ybor. Is down the street from the Gasparilla Rum Company. So hopefully pretty soon I get to go and check that out. So anyhow, y'all, let's get started. The first book we're going to talk about is Octavia E. Butler's Kindred. And it says, Dana, a modern black woman, is celebrating her 26th birthday with her new husband when she is snatched abruptly from her home in California and transported to the antebellum South. Rufus, the white son of a plantation owner, is drowning, and Dana has been summoned to save him. Dana is drawn back repeatedly through time to the slave quarters, and each time the stays grow longer, more arduous and more dangerous, until it is uncertain whether or not Dana's life will end long before it has a chance to begin. Now, I'm pretty interested in reading this because this was under the sci-fi fantasy section, and I've heard of Octavia Butler, and I feel like I read some of her stuff, but they had probably 5 or 6 books up there, and none of them rang a bell. So I picked up this one because I said, you know, this is probably pretty good because what was that movie called? Antebellum with Janelle Monáe it had a lot of potential. But I've been interested in seeing how they do, you know, sci-fi fantasy stories, you know, regarding, you know, U.S. Slavery period. But yeah, I'll probably wait till February to read this book, or probably I'll read it once I actually finish reading Underground Railroad, which I haven't finished yet, but I'll probably read that as soon as I finish this. Okay, then we have James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, which is a poetry collection. Yeah, and y'all know it. I used to read a lot of James Baldwin when I was in high school. And I haven't read him in my adult years, so I'm curious to see how my reaction would be to reading his things in my adult years. It says, a national bestseller when it first appeared in 1963, The Fire Next Time galvanized the nation and gave passionate voice to the emerging civil rights movement. At once a powerful evocation of James Baldwin's early life in Harlem and a disturbing examination of the consequences of racial injustice. The Fire Next Time is an intensely personal and provocative document. It consists of 2 letters written on the occasion of the centennial of the Emancipation Proclamation that exhorts Americans, both black and white, to attack the terrible legacy of racism, described by the New York Times Book Review as sermon, ultimatum, confession, deposition, testament, and chronicle, all presented in searing, brilliant prose. Baldwin's masterwork stands as a classic of our literature and as urgent today as when it was written. Yeah, looking forward to reading this. You know what though? I read, like I said, I read a lot of his works mostly in 9th grade because I was at this school called Sale High School, and everybody there was like pretty knowledgeable about American history overall. So I felt like I need to catch up with them because like my English teachers, my science teachers, my history teachers, all of them could quote like Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. They used to be able to quote like Ralph Ellison, James Baldwin, what's the other guy? Paul Laurence Dunbar. And I used to be like, you know, and they were all white. So that's how I really got into like James Baldwin and Ralph Ellison and Gloria Naylor, those type of authors, because I grew up with Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, and then it was like, okay, it's a whole nother world out here besides these female writers that I, you know, grew up reading about, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing how I, you know, refer to, you know, how I react to that in my adult years now. All right, y'all, and this one is Finding Oprah's Roots, Finding Your Own, Henry Louis Gates Jr. And I am interested in reading this book, y'all, because I'm writing a book right now, right? And my book is not based on, but I was inspired to write the book because of Henry Louis Gates' show that he had called African American Lives, and a book that he wrote. And he showcased in that series how a lot of black people thought that they would have significant Native American ancestry, and only like I believe Oprah Winfrey and Snoop Dogg had a significant amount. And it was interesting because Tina Turner thought that, you know, her grandparents were Native American and stuff like that, and it turns out she only had 3%, so basically none. And I believe Oprah and Snoop Dogg had like 12 and 13%, which is significantly, you know, a large amount or whatever. And I'm looking forward to reading this. So I don't know if this is going to be based on the section that they showed on the movie, or not the movie, but the TV show when he did it with Oprah, or is it going to be based on a part of the book that I read? But let me read the back of it to see what he talks about, right? Working with an elite team of historians and geneticists in coordination with his well-received PBS documentary, the prominent scholar Henry Louis Gates Jr. traces Oprah's roots and shares a lesson of her ancestors, how who we are is influenced by the paths our ancestors have trod, and how even the humblest among us can have an extraordinary impact on future generations through the simple process of building a life for our loved ones, serving as a roadmap through public documents and online databases. This book also highlights genetic testing resources that can make it possible to know one's ethnic roots in Africa, which is really interesting. Like, I want to get my DNA done, but you know, we'll talk about that when I read this book. I was going to go into something else. But yeah, I'm pretty interested to see what they talk about on this one. And now I picked up the book. I think like the first page I went to, was 35. And it says that black self-censorship started with slavery and extended well into the 20th century. Talking about slavery was incredibly difficult, especially when a person somehow thought that his or her enslavement was somehow his or her own fault. Think of this as the guilt of the victim. And I thought that really stood out because even now you have this thing where we overly censor ourselves, or we want ourselves to be shown in a certain way at all times. You know, you hear people talking smack about, you know, the reality shows that feature black women versus the reality shows that feature white women, as if both groups aren't doing the same thing, like it's American culture. But that was a pretty interesting line in that book, so I'm looking forward to seeing everything else they discussing that. And also, y'all, I I had to get Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. This is one of my favorite books. And I felt like I had a copy here already, but I couldn't find it when I was looking for it in December. I think I told y'all before in another video, I like to read a lot of black females during the winter months, during the winter months, like around Christmas time. And I couldn't find it, so I said, I'm gonna buy me another copy. And I actually bought 2 copies of this, one for me and one for my mom. And I should have just bought 3, because if I have a daughter, I want her to read this book in addition to The Color Purple and The Bluest Eye one day, right? But this book is about this young woman named Janie who's married off extremely young, and she goes on to find her own path in this world. Like, she's married off to this guy who's like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years older than her. She ends up leaving him with a guy who's probably like 10 or 15, 20 years older than her, and then they stay together for like 20 years, and then she leaves him for a younger guy, and that's when she finds her happiness and finds her purpose in life. Pretty awesome book. I can't wait to read this again, y'all. I love this book, y'all. Zora Neale Hurston is everything. Plus, it's based in Florida, so hello. There's that. And we got, y'all, a book from my favorite. It is by Hilary Rodham Clinton and Louise Penny. Let me say Secretary Clinton. It's called State of Terror. And it says, after a tumultuous period in American politics, a new administration has just been sworn in, and to everyone's surprise, the President of the United States chooses a political enemy for the vital position of Secretary of State. Yeah, I ain't know nothing about this book. I just know she's been promoting this book all this time. I didn't even bother reading this until now. So I just knew I was going to buy it. There is no love lost between the president and Ellen Adams, his new Secretary of State, but it's a canny move on the part of the president. With this appointment, he has control over one of his harshest critics. Within weeks of Adams' appointments, terrorists strike a series of horrific blows. As the State Department is in disarray and disrepute, the new Secretary of State must scramble to figure out what has happened and what happened next. Added to the crisis, the previous administration left the country without many friends or allies. Added to the crisis, the previous administration left the country without many friends or allies. I had to read that again, y'all. America finds itself out of touch with international affairs, out of practice with diplomacy, and out of power in places where and when it counts the most. Secretary Adams soon realizes the conspiracy is more intricate, the stakes are higher, and the enemies of the state are much closer than she ever could have imagined. To fight back, she assembles a surprising team of allies, including her own daughter, a passionate young female Foreign Service officer, as the Secretary's closest friend and an advisor. State of Terror is a unique and utterly compelling international thriller written by Louise Penny, a multiple award-winning #1 New York Times best-selling novelist, and Hilary Rodham Clinton, the 67th Secretary of State. Okay. Chief Inspector Armand. Okay, Louise Penny received the Order of Canada for her contributions to Canadian culture and lives in a village south of Montreal. Okay. Y'all, I am really looking forward. Hold on. Alright, I'm back, y'all. I had to go clock in real quick. But we only got one more book, y'all. And this one was also 50% off. So this one and this one were both 50% off. Good for me. Let me see something. Oprah was $3, went down from $7.5 to $3. It was gonna get got either way though. All right, y'all. This one is actually different. It's called Presumed Guilty by Erwin Chemerinsky. How the Supreme Court empowered the police and subverted, civil rights. And oh, y'all, this writing is small. I probably gonna read all of this. Okay. It says police are 9 times more likely to kill African American men than they are in other Americans. In fact, nearly 1 in every 1,000 would die at the hands of an officer. As eminent constitutional scholar Erwin Chemerinsky powerfully argues, this is no accident, but the horrific assault of an elaborate body of doctrines that allow the police and crucially the courts to presume that suspects, especially people of color, are guilty before being charged. Today in the United States, much attention is focused on the enormous problems of police violence and racism in law enforcement. Too often, though, that attention fails to place the blame where it most belongs, on the courts, and specifically on the Supreme Court. A smoking gun of civil rights research, presumed guilty, presents a groundbreaking, decades-long history of judicial failure in America, which is true, including revealing how the Supreme Court has enabled racist practices, including profiling and intimidation, and legitimated gross law enforcement excesses that disproportionately affect people of color. For the greater part of its existence, Chemerinsky shows deference to and empowerment of the police have been the modus operandi of the Supreme Court. From its inception in the late 18th century until the Warren Court in 1953, the Supreme Court rarely ruled against the police, and then only when police conduct was truly shocking. Animating seminal cases and justices from the court's history, Chemerinsky, who has himself litigated cases dealing with police misconduct for decades, shows how the court has time and again refused to impose constitutional checks on police, all the while deliberately gutting remedies Americans might use to challenge police misconduct. In an unprecedented series of landmark rulings in the mid-1950s and 60s, the pro-defendant Warren Court finally imposed significant constitutional limits on policing. Yet, as Chemerinsky demonstrates, the Warren Court was a brief historical aberration, a fleeting liberal era that ultimately concluded with Nixon's presidency and the ascendance of conservative and originalist justices whose ruling in Terry v. Ohio, City of Los Angeles versus Alliance, and Wren versus United States, among other cases, have sanctioned stop and frisk, limited suits to reform police department, and even abated the use of lethal chokehold. Written with a lawyer's knowledge and experience, presumed guilty definitely proves that an approach to policing that continues to exalt Dirty Harry can be transformed only by robust court systems committed to civil rights. In the tradition of Richard Rothstein's The Color of Law, presumed guilty is a necessary intervention into the rolling national debates over racial inequality and reform, creating a history where none was before, and promising to transform our understanding of the systems that enable police brutality. Whew, y'all, that was a mouthful. I am looking forward to reading this book because I was originally gonna I wanted to read Colin Kaepernick's book, y'all, but I'll be honest with you, I don't really like Colin Kaepernick. I wasn't really offended by the cover that caused so much controversy last summer from Colin Kaepernick's book, but I don't really like him like that, and I don't really want to read what the hell Colin Kaepernick got to say. Plus, another one of my girlfriends told me that the book is very reminiscent to Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, so they was like, ain't no use really in reading Colin Kaepernick's book. But anywho, y'all, I got all off. I first heard about Erwin Chemerinsky in 10th grade when we first moved to Jasper, Florida. And I heard about him because I believe it was like controversy surrounding his appointment to the University of California, to that law school or something like that. He was going to be head president or something like that of the law review at the University of California, Berkeley, Irvine. I can't remember. There was something regarding that, but that's when I first heard about him. And my first 2 years of college, I thought I was going to go to school to be a lawyer. Cause y'all, I wanted to be a civil rights attorney, be out here fighting for, I wanted to be a civil rights attorney for like black women in the medical field, like represent them to institute change. That's what I wanted to do. And I used to read a lot of his, op-eds and a lot of his reviews that used to be published back then. So I'm looking forward to see what he got to say about this. This probably will be better for me to read than Colin Kaepernick, ugly bald head too. But yeah, y'all, I took POS 2041 American Government last semester, right? Y'all, I'm back in school. That's part of the reason why I couldn't really record like that last year. I had 4 classes and all of them required so much freaking writing. And after this, I want to go and get my master's. But if this, let me not even go to being negative about it. This is getting me prepared to do the work or all the reading and writing that, you have to do it at the master's when you try to attain your master's. So let me not even complain. But when we took that, when I took that class, you know, that's when I started learning about you know, how the federal courts was really trying to stay out of like the civil rights movements and things that was happening in the southern states. They wanted to keep that at local and state level. And I was like, those lazy ass justices, and we paying they damn salary and they don't even want to help these people out, right? But anywho, that's a whole nother topic there. Hopefully we'll get on when I actually review this book, y'all. But that's all I got right now. I ain't got no more. I'm thinking about coming back on here on my next break, and I want to review Portia's Family Matters, y'all. And I try to steer clear of reality shows like I watch them, right? Let me not act like, oh, I'm too good to watch them. Like, I watch them, but I ain't never thought about recording, because it's like, you know, that's their real life or whatever. But I'm thinking about coming on here and recording Portia's Family Matter, because that's the first reality series in a long time that I watch every last episode, like the entire season of it. Because usually I get bored, you know, 2 episodes in, I get bored. I'm like, I can't watch this. I'm annoyed. But I might come back on here, y'all. But that's all, y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop down in the comments. Tell me some of the books that y'all purchased recently. I would love to get some suggestions. Follow me on Instagram. I try to post on there a lot more, but I ain't really no picture taking girl like that no more. But yeah, follow me on Instagram at Booksxbritt, BOOKSXBRITT. Shoot me an email if you got some suggestions on anything at all at booksxbritt@gmail.com. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.